This year, WNBA players have gotten exactly what they wanted. Caitlin Clark has essentially missed the entire season, and the WNBA has suffered the consequences.
The WNBA is in full meltdown mode. Not a stumble, not a little crisis you can patch up with a few PR tweets. No, this is complete institutional panic. Caitlin Clark, the golden goose, the one player who dragged this league out of the shadows and into mainstream conversation, might not return this season. And the second that news hit, the question ripped through the entire ecosystem: what happens to the WNBA without its star attraction? The fallout is already brutal. Ratings are collapsing, arenas are thinning out, and the social media buzz that once lit up timelines has gone dark. Without her, games feel like background noise. And let's be honest, the replacements aren't doing it. You can swap in all the hardworking role players you want, but you don't swap Beyoncé with a backup singer and expect the stadium to stay sold out. The energy she brought is gone, and it's not coming back just because a broadcast crew tries to hype up a mid-range jumper like it's a buzzer beater. And the scariest part? This isn't bad luck. This is systemic. The league bet everything on Clark, milked her name for every headline, every promo, every highlight reel, and never built enough depth around her. And now that she's gone, the tent has collapsed because there weren't enough polls holding it up. So if she doesn't come back this season, here's the nightmare: the playoffs slip into irrelevance, sponsors cool off, fans break their habit of tuning in, and the WNBA gets cemented with the deadliest label in sports, a league that only matters when one player is on the floor. And if that sticks, no hashtag, no hype campaign, no motivational slogan is going to save them. Right now, the WNBA isn't just missing Caitlin Clark. It's missing a plan. And unless they find one fast, this postseason might go down as the year nobody outside the hardcore fans even noticed happened.
Fortunately, I'm starting to get this gut feeling that we might not even see Caitlin back on the court this season, and that might actually. Now, ESPN had August 12th as the circled return date for Caitlin Clark to get back onto the court, and just yesterday she was listed as a game time decision for today's game against the Dallas Wings. And then after practice yesterday, Coach Stephanie White basically came out and said, like, no, Caitlin Clark hasn't even been practicing. So they changed it from a game time decision to her being.
The writing's been on the wall for weeks, but now it's flashing in neon. Caitlin Clark has already missed 19 of 32 games this season, and it's starting to feel less like a setback and more like a saga with no end. Quad strain, groin strain, other groin strain, her injury report reads like a medical shopping list. And what makes it worse is the way her coach, Stephanie White, keeps addressing it. Every update is this vague, non-committal line about no timetable and day by day. Translation: they have absolutely no idea when, or even if, their franchise player is going to step back on the floor. For fans, for the team, for the league, that's not just concerning, it's panic fuel. Want me to keep pushing this into a crisis tone meltdown narrative, like you're watching the ship sink in real time, or lean more into outrage commentary that goes hard at the WNBA and its handling of the situation?
Return to practice, she's been able to get a little bit more in her full court running, with her all of her body weight. It's really building up from doing minimal to then building some endurance to do longer periods of time. She's been able to do a little bit more on the court in terms of how she moves, but not into practice yet.
Now, not into practice yet. That is obviously a negative as far as how soon Caitlin Clark will be back, because she will be in practice before she returns to the court. I would guess at least a few practices before she returns to the...
Meanwhile, Indiana's latest move says it all. They've just inked veteran Odyssey Sims to a hardship contract, and let's be clear, this isn't about fine-tuning rotations or adding a little experience to the bench. This is full-blown survival mode. When you're forced to call up a 33-year-old journeyman guard on an emergency deal, it's because the cupboard is empty and the panic button's been smashed. With Sydney Colson and Ari McDonald already done for the season, the Fever aren't planning around Caitlin Clark swooping back in to save the day. They're bracing for a stretch run without her, just trying to field a functional roster and hold things together with duct tape and prayer. Want me to take this and tie it back to the league-wide meltdown, as in, how the Fever's desperation move is basically a microcosm of the WNBA's crisis, or keep it locked in on Indiana's immediate situation like a fever dream unraveling.
This is what the Indiana Fever organization been doing way too much. They dangle Caitlin Clark like a carrot, and we're all rabbits trying to get it. And then last minute, they'll let you know, oh, hey, Caitlin Clark's not available. Midday or something like that while everybody's traveling to get to the arena. Then you get to the arena, she ain't there.
If you are enjoying, please subscribe, but let's talk about what this really means for the fans, the heartbeat of this whole story. Because this isn't just about one player missing time. This is about thousands of people who fell in love with basketball again because of Caitlin Clark. These aren't casual drive-by viewers. These are devotees who rearranged their lives around Fever games. Families who turned Clark's rookie season into appointment television. Parents who planned vacations around the schedule just so their kids could see her live. Households that suddenly became full-time WNBA watchers after years of indifference, all because Clark gave them a reason to care, and now they're staring down the possibility that the very player who pulled them into the league might not set foot on the court again this season. That's not just disappointing. That's potentially devastating to the league's momentum. Do you want me to frame this next part as a fan betrayal narrative, how the league risks alienating its new loyal base, or as a fragile magic angle, that Clark's absence shows just how thin the WNBA's grip on mainstream attention really is?
I'm wondering, why did the Indiana Fever and Stephanie White decide not to come out and say, hey, she's not practicing. She's not going to be playing in this game. And this is why I've got a problem. Because there's gambling implications here. All right? There's gambling implications, and there's the implications of we've got a nationally televised game on ESPN. We want to sell as many tickets as possible. And by the way, charge the most money we can get gate revenue, yada, yada, yada.
Now those same fans are glued to their phones, refreshing like it's their full-time job, desperate for even the faintest hint of good news. A cryptic update, a practice sighting, anything. But instead of reassurance, they're getting the same vague, stomach-dropping reports from Stephanie White. She hasn't returned to practice yet, she's only doing full-court running with her full body weight. Which, let's be honest, doesn't sound like progress. It sounds like carefully worded code for, we're nowhere close to actual basketball activities. Want me to spin this next beat into the emotional gut punch for fans, the heartbreak of investing in something that feels like it's slipping away, or the bigger league nightmare, the WNBA having to sell playoff basketball without the one name that makes casuals tune in.
Can't wait until Caitlin Clark is back. She's the most dynamic, electric player in the WNBA. Drake, great job, Lexi. Scott said, have patience, at least several more weeks. Now, whoa.
The panic isn't just loud, it's rational. Fans have already seen what happens when Clark goes missing, and the market reaction was brutal. Earlier in the year, ticket prices collapsed by more than 70% in some places, Chicago Sky games free-falling from $86 to $25 the moment Clark was ruled out. Other matchups saw prices cut in half overnight. And yet, back then, there was still a flicker of hope. A timeline. A maybe soon. Something to cling to. Now, there's only a thick cloud of uncertainty. Each non-answer from the Fever sideline sounds less like caution and more like confirmation that something's very wrong. And fans aren't just nervous anymore, they're starting to wonder if the league can even survive the vacuum. Do you want me to push the next stretch into the economic fallout, tickets, TV, sponsors walking, or lean heavier into the emotional betrayal fans feel, like they were sold something the league can't deliver?
Maybe it's just me, but there seems to be a massive decline in mainstream interest in the WNBA this season. Last year, there were so many stories in the WNBA, it was hard to keep up. Over the past couple of weeks, outside of Airborne Wiener, there's really been nothing to talk about. Think about it. What is the biggest storyline right now?
And that right there is the nightmare scenario crystallized. The WNBA isn't just losing its most marketable player, it's losing the foundation on which the entire season was built. Clark isn't simply the league's brightest star, she's the gravitational center everything orbits. The attendance surges, the spike in merchandise sales, the network contracts boasting record-breaking viewership, all of it ties directly back to her. Without Clark, the fever dropped from a must-watch primetime spectacle to just another struggling franchise. And worse, the league-wide spotlight dims with them. The average non-Clark broadcast pulling 549,000 viewers is decent, but in the unforgiving world of TV, it's barely enough to justify the investment networks made banking on Clark's presence. That gap, from 1.26 million to 500,000, isn't just numbers, it's leverage lost in every sponsorship pitch, every renewal meeting, every argument for expanded coverage. For Clark, the toll is just as heavy. Imagine being 22, already carrying the burden of an entire league's relevance, and suddenly fighting through the first major injury battle of your career. Her admission on Sue Bird's podcast, that she's never experienced anything like this, paired with the crushing sense of obligation to return, lays bare the cruel paradox. The WNBA needs her back more than ever, but forcing it risks breaking her down permanently. This isn't just an injury story anymore. It's a collision between a league's desperation and an athlete's humanity. Do you want me to frame the next beat around the ethical dilemma of the WNBA pushing Clark to be both savior and soldier, or lean into the structural crisis of putting all their eggs in one basket?
Being active and playing 4 games and then not, and like not feeling the best, and then like frustrated of like how hard I worked in the off season, and then like all I do is rehab and like continue to do this process. And just like trying to trust that the best I can. And obviously there's really frustrating days, and there's days where like it's a little bit easier and like you're very, very motivated and like you're right close to the finish line of getting back and being back. And then like, it's not like I have a training camp to like build up to like playing my first game again. It's like, no, like you're tossed into game 30, like go try to play well. Like it's hard.
Exactly. What you're describing is less a hiccup and more a brutal exposure of fragility. The Odyssey Sims signing isn't a roster move, it's a confession. Indiana is waving the white flag on short-term optimism and quietly bracing for a future where Caitlin Clark isn't walking through that tunnel anytime soon, but the deeper issue is structural. The league has made itself hostage to a single personality. The Caitlin Clark effect wasn't just a tagline, it was the WNBA's business model for 2025. They inflated the balloon to bursting point. Bigger arenas, primetime TV slots, sponsorship packages, all sold on the promise of Clark's presence. And now, with her sidelined, that balloon is deflating in real time. The optics are devastating. National broadcasts panning over thousands of empty seats in stadiums that were expanded specifically for her. A hometown all-star showcase, supposed to be the crown jewel of the season, hemorrhaging 36% of its audience without her. That's not an unlucky coincidence. That's the marketplace sending a clear message: people aren't tuning in for the league, they're tuning in for her. And here's the tragedy. By pushing the Caitlin Clark narrative so aggressively, the WNBA has robbed itself of resilience. Other stars, other rivalries, other stories, those should have been elevated in parallel. Instead, the league bet everything on Clark's durability, ignoring the obvious truth of professional sports: injuries are inevitable. The result is a product now exposed as fragile, brittle, and alarmingly one-dimensional. The Fever's desperation signings tell you about their season. The half-empty arenas tell you about the league. Together, they paint the picture of an enterprise teetering on the edge of irrelevance the second its chosen savior can't play.
Indiana Fever go out and pick up Odyssey Sims, a former second-team All-WNBA player, somebody who just as recently as June 1st this season dropped 32 points on the Phoenix Mercury.
The psychological whiplash across the league is real. For months, rival players dismissed Clark, shaded her, even minimized her impact in all-star voting. That was ego. That was insecurity. Now, those same players are staring at rows of empty seats and realizing, in real time, that the very spotlight they once resented was the one keeping the whole stage lit. Barkley's petty jealousy line stings because it's true, but the irony is even sharper. Their disdain has given way to dependence, and then there's the part nobody wants to say out loud. The WNBA didn't just fumble the optics, they fumbled Clark herself. For injuries in a single season isn't bad luck. It's a screaming red flag. Hand issues in preseason. Quad strain. Groin strain left. Groin strain right. That's a textbook case of mismanagement, overuse, and an organization so desperate to capitalize on her momentum that they ignored the basic principle: protect the asset. Instead, they ran her into the ground, and now the entire league is paying the price. The cruelest twist. Clark is the type of competitor who will never admit she's less than 100%. She'll drag herself onto the court if she's told to. Which means the responsibility never should have been hers. It should have been on the Fever staff, on the league, on executives who knew she was their meal ticket but still failed to manage her workload intelligently. Now, instead of maximizing a generational career, the WNBA is staring at the possibility that they've broken her before she's even had a chance to peak. And if that proves true, it's not just negligence, it's malpractice.
What's going on in Indiana is that I feel like a lot of these people in the front office, a lot of these people up in Indy for the Fever do not care for Caitlin Clark for whatever reason. You know, Scott Atkins could be one of them. I'm not saying that he is, but it's looking like he don't care for Caitlin Clark. We know clear as day that Stephanie White has been looking in certain areas not to be feeling the Caitlin Clark effect. I don't know, but this stuff is definitely looking concerning because it's showing us that could there be more to her injury and they're not being transparent.
When you hear no timetable in pro sports, it's almost never just caution. It's code. It's translation for, we don't know if this season is salvageable. Coaches and GMs hide behind phrases like long-term health and day-to-day, not because they expect a comeback, but because they're bracing fans for the possibility there won't be one. The Fever signing Odyssey Sims is the clearest signal yet, not a roster tweak, not depth insurance, but a flat-out survival move. They know Clark isn't walking back through that tunnel tomorrow. They know Sydney Colson and Ari McDonald are done. And they know without Clark, their playoff and championship dreams are toast, but the bigger panic isn't in Indiana, it's in the league office. Because the WNBA didn't just market Caitlin Clark. They bet the house on her. She was the growth strategy, the TV ratings booster, the ticket scalper's goldmine, the headline magnet. And now, without her, we're seeing what the league looks like stripped of that star power. Flat games, plummeting ticket prices, empty arenas, sponsors quietly backing away. This isn't just a lost season. It's an existential crisis. Because if Clark doesn't come back, the WNBA isn't just losing games, it's losing the narrative, the one thing that made the casual sports world care in the first place.
I mean, it's not my first time just coming to a new team and coming in and just being me. The biggest thing is just doing what I do best. Playing defense, playing hard, doing whatever the team needs. Obviously, I know they've been down with the injuries. Prayers up for Sid and Ari. Love them both. But like I said, I'm excited to be here, and I'm not going to do too much. But whatever coach tells me to do is what I'm going to do and have fun and enjoy my team.
Without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA isn't the next big thing. It's a niche league again, stripped down to its hardcore base. The hard metrics make it undeniable, chart decreasing viewership sliced in half when Clark isn't on the floor, money with wings ticket markets cratering, with resale prices diving 60-70%. Stop sign merch sales frozen without new Clark highlights feeding the hype cycle, zipper mouth face social engagement drying up, timelines going silent where there used to be debate and buzz. Clark isn't just a superstar. She is the product. The marketing plan. The TV draw. The attendance surge. Without her, all those new fans, the ones who turned Fever games into family events, bought season tickets, dragged their friends into the WNBA world, are being left stranded. They didn't buy into the league. They bought into her. And now, they're staring at rosters full of names they don't know, paying premium prices for a product that suddenly feels ordinary again, and that's the real heartbreak. It's not just Clark's body breaking down, it's the momentum of an entire sport collapsing under the weight of its dependence on a single player. Fans who were supposed to be the foundation of a new era are now in danger of walking away before that era even begins.
And that's why Caitlin Clark is so great, because Caitlin Clark is the magnet. She's the magnet, the needle. I'll say magnet in this case. She draws a big audience. And with that big audience, you learn about the other teams by watching the Fever. And since they play each other so many times, and there's only 12 other teams they play, why not have to watch the other teams for? Seriously, why? I don't find the other teams that interesting.
The ripple effects aren't hypothetical anymore, they're happening in real time. Attendance isn't surging without Clark, TV numbers outside of Fever games are basically stagnant, and even the shiny new Valkyries expansion team can't generate Clark-level mania. That's not growth, that's a sugar high from one player that's already wearing off, and then you zoom in on Clark herself. This isn't just a groin strain or a quad issue anymore, it's the psychological toll of being the most important player in league history before she's even finished her rookie contract. She's built her career and reputation on always being available, always showing up, always delivering. Now, her body won't let her. And when you pile the crushing weight of carrying an entire league's expectations onto that, it's devastating in ways the box score doesn't capture. The Fever's roster moves only confirm what nobody wants to say out loud, they're bracing for a long-term absence. Signing Odyssey Sims wasn't about plugging a short gap. It was about survival mode, about admitting that the face of the league may be gone until 2026. That if that's the reality, then fans aren't overreacting by panicking, they're reading the writing on the wall. The hype train that carried the WNBA into the national conversation is grinding to a halt, and without Clark, there's no engine to restart it.
Caitlin Clark should not be thrown back into any mix if she doesn't have significant practices under her belt before she goes into game speed. You can try to simulate game speed as much as you want in practice. You will never be able to. Game speed is game speed. There's also a lot more adrenaline, all of these different things pumping when you're playing in front of a sold out crowd that the Indiana Fever do every single night. If I'm their coach, she needs to practice for at minimum a week. At the minimum, she needs to be doing everything in practice for at least a week before you throw her back in the...
That's the brutal truth. The Caitlin Clark effect wasn't growth, it was dependency. The WNBA built its entire narrative, schedule, and marketing budget on one player, and now the entire house of cards is wobbling. Fans feel like they've been bait and switched. They bought season tickets, jerseys, and streaming packages under the assumption that Clark would be the centerpiece every night. Instead, they're stuck doom-scrolling through injury reports, refreshing timelines, hanging on to vague coach quotes like, day-to-day, and no timetable. That's not fandom, that's psychological whiplash, and this is where the league's gamble looks reckless. They had one job, protect the star that was changing everything. Instead, Clark has been thrown into a schedule with suffocating physical demands, inconsistent officiating, and marketing pressure no rookie in modern sports has faced. The result? 4 different injuries in less than a year and a fan base that now lives in permanent limbo. Without her, the curtain gets pulled back. You're left with half-empty arenas, TV ratings that flatline without her name on the marquee, and broadcasts trying to manufacture drama that simply doesn't land. It's not just that Clark is missing, it's that she exposed how little else the league had built up in the meantime. The Clark effect was never just about her brilliance. It was about how dangerously dependent the WNBA allowed itself to become. And now that she's gone, fans are realizing that what felt like a movement might have just been a moment.
Like, Stephanie White was saying that she's not done anything with the team. Like, she's not even shooting around with the team. Like, as much as we're hearing certain things, I just don't know. I don't know. Like, let's just say several more weeks. Let's just say, for argument's sake, she's out for 3 more weeks. 3.
That's the nightmare nobody around the WNBA wants to say out loud. What if Caitlin Clark doesn't come back the same? The entire business model has been built on the assumption that she'll not only return, but return as the same generational star who could drop 30, hit logo threes, and draw crowds that dwarf entire franchises. But soft tissue injuries don't just disappear with a good night's sleep. They linger. They pile up. And sometimes, they rob athletes of the explosiveness and durability that made them special in the first place. That if Clark comes back diminished, a step slower, less confident, not quite the same scoring machine, the consequences go way beyond the Indiana Fever. They ripple across the entire ecosystem. Networks paying premium rights fees suddenly wonder if they overbid. Sponsors who jumped on the bandwagon start questioning their ROI. Casual fans who tuned in for the Clark show drift away, leaving behind only the hardcore base that was there before, and that's where the existential threat comes in. This league didn't diversify its appeal. It didn't build multiple stars at the same pace. It put all its marketing, ticket sales, and TV weight behind one rookie. If that rookie never fully recovers, the WNBA isn't just facing a lost season, it's staring down the possibility of losing its moment altogether. The panic is real because the stakes are generational. Clark was supposed to be the bridge from niche league to mainstream relevance. If she doesn't come back the same, that bridge collapses before anyone ever truly crossed it.